Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing a very requested, very long time awaiting video of what is in my Z palette with my Colourpop pressed single shadows. This video was requested a couple months ago and I feel really bad that it's not going up any sooner, but I hope you guys can understand. I don't want you to feel like I'm not hearing you when you guys want stuff because I really am. Here it is, finally. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go by my Z palette shade by shade, and I'm gonna tell you how I feel about the shades. Now, some of them I don't have strong opinions on because some of them I have used more than others, but I will just, tell you guys what is up. So this is the medium-sized blue Z palette. I know that a lot of people don't support Z palette anymore. I'm not saying how they have treated their customers is good. I bought this on Amazon years ago and I really like it, and you can decide whatever you want to do for how you want to spend your money, what brands you want to support, but this is not about the Z palette brand, this is about what's in my Z palette. So every single shade is a Colourpop pressed shadow except for one, which is this one, which I'll get into. And just in general, I absolutely loved these. This is what got me into color. I feel like it's amazing. You can see this is a very wide range of things. You can also just get some awesome, like, neutral looks with the matte shades. I don't think every shade is the best quality ever. There definitely is a tiny bit of some inconsistencies, but I think in general, generally speaking, these are really, really good. Also, I know that some of these were limited edition and I have no idea which ones. I did order some of them in the summer, but honestly, there are so many Colourpop pressed shadows. They are very much similar sometimes, so if one of these looks nice to you and you can't find it anymore, there's definitely a dupe for it. I think that Colourpop does lack in the blue and green category. I really wanted to buy some singles for blue and green and I didn't find any, so I got the electric palette. That's what I'm wearing today. If you're wondering what is on my eyes, I followed a tutorial that I will link down below, but without further ado, let's get into it. Here is a close-up of my Z palette. Now, I hope the lights aren't washing it out too much, but here it is in all its glory. The first shade is Let Me Explain, and this is a white gold sort of color, and I bought this to be the inner corner highlight of my palette. I really wanted one shade that I could just rely on that wasn't too warm or too cool, and I really do think that this goes with most of the looks that I do, and you know, sometimes I'll pull from another palette, but in general, I think that this is a really nice shade. It has a super creamy formula. The next shade is Issues, and this is a really amazing transition shade for orange toned looks. It's a very peachy color. At first I didn't use it because I thought it would be too light on me, but it's actually really, really nice and I really recommend it. I think it blends out super well and it's the perfect transition. Next we have Centerfold, and I actually don't use this a lot. I think that it is a bit too light for my skin tone. If I do use it, I mix it with something else, but it is a matte shade and yeah, I haven't played around with it that much. I also know that the first shadows I got from Colourpop were the orangey shades, so I used them a lot in the beginning, and now I definitely go for more of the purpley, like this half of the palette. But again, I love having the variety, and even if you end up hating a shadow, it's not that expensive. Next is Slim Fit, which is another orange, and I used to absolutely love mixing this with the shade here called Stay Golden, which I will talk about later. They created a really cool look, and I definitely think it's a great shadow. It's a little too light again for me. I think I have to mix it with something, but if you're looking for a peachy toned palette, that's why I originally got these, because I didn't want the peach palette because it only has 2 peach shades, and I bought these and it was like all that I needed. Next we have the shade Oh Ship. I'm assuming from the name that this was one of the limited edition. This is a red pigment and it is basically a direct dupe for the red in the Urban Decay electric palette. This is so pigmented. This is stunning. I can't believe how well the shadow is. It is a matte shadow and it's amazing. Next is Cannonball. This is a orange shade. It reminds me of Real Girl from the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. It's really nice. I definitely think it's a little more scratchy of a shade, but then again, it's nothing you can't work with. It's just less creamy to me than maybe like this shade in Issues, but I still think it's really good. And then last we have the shade Criss Cross. I think this is actually a pretty unique shade because it's like a reddy brown. I will say one flaw that I find with these shades is that none of them are particularly dark. Like, this is probably the darkest shade in the palette, but I don't know, I find that it lacks in terms of darkening up a look. So this is definitely not as dark as I wanted it to be, but I still think it's really cool. Next we have Take a Break, and this shadow is really bad. The reason I kept this shadow is because it is super chunky and super sheer, but when I was doing all those orange toned looks, I really liked having just like a sheer wash of some shimmer to go over the mattes, but I really would not recommend that if they still have it. It's super flaky and just odd. Next we have Soft Core, and I really like this. It's like a transition, more pinky shade. I will say that it's definitely more stiff than the shade Issues, which is the other transition that I love, and I think that it definitely takes a little bit more building up to get it to work, but I do go for this all the time as a transition, and you can tell how well pressed it is because it looks like I've never used it, and I have used this palette so many times. It definitely like doesn't have pan in it, but there's just so many shades, you know what I mean? So I like to like dip into other things. Next we have Come and Get It. This shadow is amazing. This is like a duochrome peach to pink shade, and it's super, super creamy, not chunky at all. I really recommend this if you're in the market for something like that. Next we have Seize the Day, so I'm assuming that was also limited edition because it's summery, but I know that I had another pink shadow that I got rid of because they were essentially the same, but they definitely still have pinks. Now this is really nice. I find that you can build up the pigment, but you can also get kind of a sheer wash, and it's also a little bit of a darker pink, which I like, and it's very, you know, it's much darker than the shade next to it, which is the shade Sandbar. This is also a direct dupe for the Urban Decay Electric Palette pink shade, and this is crazy. Like, this is definitely a pressed pigment. You know how the Electric Palette was discontinued because some of the shades like weren't safe for the immediate eye area? I think that's the same with these pressed pigments. I don't care, I use it in my eye area, like I'm not gonna die, but just keep that in mind. It's really cool. I find that it's almost too light for me to use all over my lid. I definitely have to deepen it up with some purple, but you can get such cool looks from it. Next we have the shade 143. This is a purple, but it's a little disappointing. I still use it in that purple look that I did a while ago that a lot of people liked. I was wearing that on my lid. It's just not as vibrant as you expect it to be. It's not a creamy pigment like these two. You are really pigmented and then you expect 143 to be kind of like that, and it's not. It's definitely more sheer. You need to build it up, and I would say it goes on more berry than really purple. I have it a little bit today in my crease, but not really. This is mainly the Electric palette. And next I have Going Steady, and this is a really nice dark purple shade. It's a matte. It's definitely creamy. It definitely performs better than 143, and yeah, I always do looks with these four shadows here. This is like the purple quad in my eyes, and I really recommend this if you're looking for a like deep, it's not really a deep purple, it's like a deep muted purple, but I really like it. Next is the only shadow that is not Colourpop. This is the Urban Decay Sideline shadow. This was a free birthday gift when I turned 18 from Ulta, and this shadow is really cool. It's like a duochrome green to yellow shade. I don't think you need it. It's like $20 for Urban Decay singles, and the Colourpop ones are just as good. Plus, I don't use it that much. I wore it on Halloween. My boyfriend and I wore Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, and it was really cool for Tinkerbell, but in general, it's not necessary. Next, we have the shade Paper Tiger. It is really densely packed, but I find that it's very hard to pick up this product. I've only used it a handful of times. I feel like they were trying to create something like the camel color in the Modern Renaissance palette, but it's just too densely packed. I don't think I would recommend that shade. Next is IOU. This is a perfect orange crease transition shade. This is so good. It's nice and creamy. I think it's a little bit drier now than when I bought it originally, but it's just so nice, and I don't know if you can tell, but I do have a dip in that. I did use that so much when I was using all of these orange tones. Next is Cut Out. It's kind of a peach, but it's more muted. I definitely think it's a good shade. I don't think it's a standout, like it's not an incredibly unique shade, but if you are interested, it definitely is a good formula. Next is the shade High Strung. This is amazing. This is super metallic. It's like a rose goldy type shade, and I definitely think it's really good. I don't wear metallic shades all that much when they're more neutral, but I definitely love it. You can see that I have a good dip in it. Next is the shade Get Out, which is a more like berry tone shade. I said that this was the quad that I used for purple shades. Again, it's really nice. It's a good berry tone purple. Something you have to keep in mind is they're not as purple as you expect. Like I expected these to be really purple. You can see it's purple on my eyes when I wear it, but it's definitely more of a berry toned, like a more muted, it's not like this. It's not like super bright electric purple. Next is the shade Stay Golden. I actually think this shade is really unique. It doesn't really look like much in the pan, but it packs a punch. This is what I would always mix with this shade when I first got this, and it just created this crazy, amazing look. And yeah, I think that it's really unique. It's a matte, it's really creamy, it blends well. It's definitely worth checking out if you're interested in more berry tones. The last row, first we have Wake Up Call. This is the only shade I would consider to be cool toned in this palette, and I keep it because I'd like to have a cool toned transition shade in my collection, but I really don't use it that much. I don't do cool tone looks that much because I don't own many cool toned things. I definitely don't think I needed this, and I don't think you need it, but since I have it, I would like to keep it. Next is Note to Self, and you can maybe see I've used this a lot. I really like this. It's a really nice brown. I kind of think of this as the more neutral brown shade, where the shade I Owe You is a very orange nice transition. I think this one is a very brown nice transition, like if you don't want something too orange or peachy with the other transitions that I mentioned. Next is Top Notch, and I don't think there's anything particularly special. These are just kind of some brown shades, but they're really nice if you want to play around with some different brown tones. I don't think it's anything you need, but the actual shadow itself is, you know, it's matte and it's nice and it blends well, and if you're looking for a shade like this, it's just a little bit darker than this, then I would say go for it. Next is the shade Popular Demand. It's a little more on the red tone brown, and I really like it. It's just not dark enough. Like I thought that this would be my dark brown, and it's definitely not. But I think that if you know that, like if you know this isn't going to be the dark brown in your Z palette, then I think it's still nice. I definitely didn't need both of these, but I use them since I have them. The next shade is Glass Bowl. This is very hyped on YouTube, and I definitely think it's unique and good, but it's really, really crumbly. I would still recommend this shadow. I just think you should be aware that you either need a setting spray or you need to use your fingers, and there will be fallout. But it's a duochrome purple to brown shift. It looks bad alone, like I can't put this on my lids without a purple under it, but I definitely think it's a unique shadow. I have absolutely nothing like that in my entire makeup collection. And the last is Cute Alert. Maybe more gray tone, like a little bit cooler shade. It's a dark shade. I don't use it as much as maybe I thought I would, just because it's not like a dark brown, but it's definitely the darkest shade in the palette. Matte blends well. For most of these, that's the case. Okay guys, so that was everything in my Z palette. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.